David Reed. I'm the full-time guy at IK that is going to solve all your problems. That's no, I'm completely no. That's true. It might take me a minute to get to all of them. So welcome everyone, particularly if you've come from another state or two. We're going to get started. We'll do our introductions. Then we have a number of questions as part of the panel interview. We can expand on those however you'd like, because this time is really about you and what you need to get solved. After that, we'll have an AMA. Then we'll sit down and have some food, and the questions and everything else can continue from there. Again, I'm going to be here. I kind of feel like a lounge singer. I'm here all week kind of thing, but I will be here all night for as long as you have in terms of questions. So if you need to queue up, whether it's a question or concern or something else, please bend to my ear. So everything you say, I will write down. Well, if you have something we need to do, I'm taking those notes back. So I've already talked to our senior executives and said, you're going to get debriefed on Monday and you're getting everything, just so you know. So the time is really valuable, quite honestly, for us to hear your voice. That's the most important thing. And then hopefully for you, so you can get a little bit more directionality or any little puzzles you have solved. So without further ado, Kyle, would you take it on?
Hello, can you hear me okay? Yep. Cool. Yes, so my name is Kyle Hicks. I'm currently a technical program manager at Google. I've been at Google for around 3.5 years. And right now I do capacity planning, basically logical capacity planning for AI and ML in Google Ads. Prior to that, I was on the cloud side. That's where I started. I'm doing infrastructure as a service capacity planning as well. And I have experience in the oil and gas industry prior to that. I did some work with like a hardware distribution company on their IT side as well. And I have an MBA from Carnegie Mellon. So that's a little bit about me.
Pennsylvania boy. All right. I just think, you get 2 mics. You're special.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. First of all, super happy to be here. Thank you all for coming, and very glad to see IK folks in person. My name is Simh. I've been with IK in a part-time mode for about 3 to 4 years. I'm mainly involved in engineering management workshops and doing mock interviews mainly for engineering leadership. Most of my career I spent at Amazon, where I spent about 12 to 13 years, and most of the time I've been in the engineering management role. Second half of that, I was a senior engineering leader where I managed a number of global teams, mainly across US and India. I also served as an Amazon bar raiser. For those of you not familiar with the program, it's basically bar raising is a program where a bar raiser is assigned to each of the candidates interviewing at Amazon, and their role is basically to make sure that other interviewers are competent and calibrated to interview that particular role. And in the end, they drive higher or no higher decision for each of the candidates. So I did a little bit over 350 interviews as a bar raiser. Also spent about a year working at Snap or Snapchat, a social media company, working as one of their engineering managers. And I started my career in Midwest a long time ago at a company called Thomson Reuters as a software engineer.
That's nice. How are you?
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me? All right, I'm Ruda, and so I joined DoorDash recently to help the ads business, particularly focused on consumer product goods, that is groceries or convenience stores. So I'm learning about the business and also trying to help the team, solve. Yeah, and before that I was at Uber. I was doing earner incentives, that is the offers Uber give to drivers to increase efficiency and get more revenue. So I led a few projects, including like personalization, where we optimized the driver offer assignment and also expanded the product scope to have incentives in airports or suburban area. Before that, I was in Meta. I was doing integrity, tried to improve the integrity quality of Facebook app, focused on entities like bad actors have been increasingly sophisticated to escape the obvious policies by spreading out the harm in multiple posts or comments such that Facebook cannot take any legal actions against them, like delete the post. So we built this entity risk model and, added some soft levers to fight harm, like, we can demote in newsfeed or remove harmful groups from the recommendation surface. And I also worked at Amazon, that is living in Seattle. I see many of my friends have some time or tenure in Amazon. I was in smart home business, that is, with Alexa and trying to build some recommendations system like Hunches we built for smart home. We also built things like smart energy dashboard, which you can use today to see some of the energy consumption of your devices and get recommendations about energy savings. I graduated from Carnegie Mellon, Silicon Valley campus. I was there for a while. I was also in Pittsburgh for some time. So yeah, that's my background.
All right. So you can hold on to that one, Kyle, because we'll go to you first.
Sounds good.
We'll just go down the way. All right. So our first question. So in and around your teams, what type of roles is your company hiring right now? This is a tricky question.
Yeah. I would say the climate has improved. Generally the climate has improved, especially for TPM roles. At Google specifically, I think the cloud and like the big push for AI and ML related cloud solutions is a place that you will see a lot of growth opportunities. In other parts of the core business, like search and ads, it's a little bit more about replacing core competencies on the teams. But in general, I'm seeing a lot of opportunities.
All right. Guys, that down to sound on everyone. Let's see how this works.
So from my visibility, there's still all kinds of openings at Amazon. However, in terms of the volume, it's probably less than where it was peak during the COVID. So there's still all kinds of roles. Obviously, the volume is a little bit less. However, based on what I'm seeing and the students that I'm working with, I've seen over the past 2-3 months, for example, folks getting offers for senior engineering manager roles or SDMs, SDM L6 roles, science managers, TPMs, and principal product manager in tech, right? So it's still possible, but it's nowhere near the peak when it was during the COVID, when the big tech was competing for the roles and so on. The other thing that's kind of contributing to the problem is because there's less external openings, there's more, I would say, there's higher percentage of internal candidates occupying those roles. So because there's less roles, folks that for whatever reason, they don't want to move the company for, safety reason, immigration, whatever it is, but they do want to move the team, they end up moving to some of those roles that are open to external candidates. So for that reason, probably the percentage of external candidates that are hired into those roles is less. However, as Kyle mentioned, I do see some improvement compared to, say, 6 months ago or at the beginning of this year.
All right, thank you. Mic check. Let's see if it is working properly. I'm not sure it is. Can you hear me? Is it? All right. So as I said, I recently joined DoorDash, and within the ads org, there is hiring in multiple roles, like some of the things mentioned earlier, like ML engineers or data scientists, product managers, and certainly operations. But I would also like to share some of my experience because I was in the market recently. Primarily I look for like AI, ML roles, and I would say, of course, there are traditional companies that you would see hiring. And in fact, I would say, let's say compared to 6 months before, I think big companies or medium-sized companies are hiring more lately. But I would also say that I have seen an enormous amount of interest from smaller companies like early-stage startups, and I'm personally interested in that. So there is a wide range of hiring in these roles, like either in ML or in engineers who are interested in sort of ML or AI problems. And of course, many startups would tell you they are doing Gen AI, and probably so. So I would encourage everybody to look at smaller companies. I have visibility to ads ranking or recommendation style work in many small companies and also big companies like DoorDash or Meta. That's my view. So I encourage everybody to talk to smaller companies.
All right. Thank you. So, second question. What are the first steps a professional should take when considering a career transition to a new role? That's for you two.
And I mean, yeah, I think there's things that you definitely want to do as part of the journey. The first is to reach out to folks who are in roles or similar roles that you're interested in, to really understand both sort of their journey, how they got there, as well as what the actual role looks like, because you want to make sure that it's the right fit for you. I've seen a lot of cases where people at Google and elsewhere, they're able to maybe interview well, but once they get into the job, they're struggling and they aren't able to generate quick wins that really propel somebody's career. So I think it is really important to think not just about the passing the interview phase, although that is very important, but also then how can you build that momentum once you're there. So I think, yeah, the first stage is always research. If you can get that firsthand knowledge, that's the best. But then reading about companies and big tech in some ways has similarities, but every company has peculiarities about them based on either how they were founded, what their core business is, or where they're located. And so kind of understanding how your personal life and your interests and career goals align with like the company culture, the corporate culture. I think that's another important aspect to consider. And so you can get that again by talking to people, by reading reviews online, and those types of things.
Sure. Simh?
Yeah, I agree with points Kyle mentioned. A couple other things to kind of keep in mind and sort of taking a step back. Before deciding that transition is the right step, you should consider where you see yourself in career, both short term, this year, next year type of thing, and 5 years from now, right? And as a best practice, you should always have periodic discussions with your manager, because as part of that, you want to evaluate, is it possible for you to get to that level, whatever your goal is, within the existing team, within the existing organization. I've seen cases where, for example, folks prematurely kind of move teams or move the company that actually is step back in their career, long-term thinking, right? Now, sure, short-term, there's certain things, where it's compensation or whatever it is, right? But you also kind of want to think about long-term as well, and to evaluate that, there's few common resources that you should utilize. One is your manager. Job of each manager, and at least 90% of these, 90% of managers are, I would say, you typically doing well in understanding what is your career passion, where you see yourself, and kind of helping you evaluate how to get there, and what is the likelihood of achieving that within the current team. As part of that, the one critical point is analyzing the gaps. What are your gaps? So let's say, whether you're applying to move vertically up, or you want to move to different roles, say moving from IC to a manager, there's probably certain things that need to work on, right? So utilize your manager on understanding what are those gaps, how to work on those things before the actual opening comes. And that's going to help you whether you're moving up within the existing team or you're entering somewhere else, because those skills are going to help you anywhere. The other resource is your mentor. So you should utilize your mentor. You might have more than one mentor, right? So once you understand your gaps, talk to your mentor. Mentors are also a great resource to kind of help you evaluate your decision. Like, hey, I'm thinking joining so-and-so team, or hey, I'm thinking about leaving the company. There's a bunch of things to consider, and mentors can provide insight, and can comment on some of the touchy topics that you might not be comfortable talking to your manager, right? explore those options, as Kyle mentioned, do your research. Now, whether you're deciding to move internally within a company, say moving a different organization or moving to a different company altogether, do your research. Depending which path you take, the research might be different, right? So if you're deciding to move within a company, reach out with your network, see who has exposure to the team that you're planning to applying for. You might have some internal resources they can utilize, right? So for example, depending on what your priorities are, let's say if you're looking for good work-life balance, you might be able to look at their on-call or operational, or some of the goals and projects, how they're trending. Is it a high-stress environment or not, right? So there's a bunch of internal things that you can do in addition to folks within your network. And then if you are planning to move externally, similar thing, reach out to your network, maintain your network, LinkedIn and so on, right? If you're planning to apply to a specific company, you might know connections or friends of friends that might be working there that can provide you insight. There's a bunch of online things, whether it's a Blind app or Glassdoor or whatever that, you can kind of get, see, blind users right there, okay. What's your username? I'm joking. I have funny experience about Blind. We might have time about that later. But anyway, so there's a lot of online things, and in addition to that, definitely utilize your network, right? Once you decide that okay, moving externally is the right choice for me, reach out to your network. Some of the folks might be some of the folks, the close connections with your network, they might be hiring themselves, or they might close relation with their managers that are hiring, right? So opportunities might open up, right? So you definitely utilize that. The other thing is the standard stuff. Polish up your resume, a LinkedIn profile, start preparing. You anticipate, based on your gap analysis that you're working on mentor and manager, anticipate what are the things that you're going to fail in the interview. All of us have gaps, right? All of us have things that, you probably know, okay, this is the highest risk for me in the interview for this particular role, and start practicing on those. Whether it's mock interviews, through IK, that's a great resource, or online videos, prep material, there's a bunch of things you can utilize.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go to another question in just a second. So just to reiterate again, I think it's really important to go. It's a career change. It's not a job change. If you're looking to make a job change, oftentimes that might be indicating to you that I really hate my job. Who here has done a job that they really hated?
This was.
It's okay. You can put your hands up tall. I don't know, but. Not this one, just to be clear. It's not true. But it's never good to go away from a job. It's always best to go into one. Look at that door that's opening up to you. So to that point, something that Sanad said that I really want to pass on is that the idea of having good mentors. I think one of the most powerful things you can ever assemble in your life is really good mentors, and that can be in a variety of areas. They don't just have to be a technical mentor. You have folks who know you well, right? And they can give you information about you. You can describe what you're looking at doing. They're going, is that something you're interested in? What is it? And give you that reflection that we might not get together. Because if you get a really nice offer, right? All of a sudden your head can spin a little bit, and you go, wow. That sounds great, but you maybe not have looked into everything as much as you would want to. So particularly for ML and data science folks, when we're talking about interviewing, I always say, particularly if as was mentioned, if you've got smaller companies that are doing this, sometimes they don't know exactly what they want you to do. So I tell my students, ask them, if we take 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months as sort of the near, mid, and long term, whatever that would be. Can you tell me the concrete criteria that I have to meet to absolutely kill this job? Just tell me what that is.
No, wow.
80% of the time, and I interview almost every week just to practice my interviewing and see what's going on. 80% of the times, the managers go, that's a really good question, which is objectively good in the interview process, right? Because that's one of the things you're getting evaluated on. But if they can't give you those criteria, you might want to think twice about that particular opportunity, because you don't know what a win looks like. So it's important to always know, what that win looks like after you've done your research, you've talked to folks who know you and can paint that picture for you. Then you want to make the change. Because again, if you're making a career change, we're moving a super tanker. It's not a speedboat. and you want to be on that course for a long time, that'd be really productive for you and your family. All right, so next question, and he fortunately has this right in hand. Let me.
Thank you that you're not making me answer this again after so
No.
many useful things have been said.
No. I have that written down actually. Okay, so because the next one, Senna wants to skip, so that's fine. Here we go. So what would you like to see in people applying for AI/ML and related roles? Any tips to stand out, especially for folks looking to transition into ML and AI?
Yeah, I think traditionally people in AI and ML come with some strong background in statistics or ML or math and programming. So I think having some experience with either of these or both of these is useful. And one thing I may say is probably the most important, that is being able to show some completed projects, that is demonstrate your experience via completed projects in industry or contributions to some open source code base or even some hackathons or your own personal projects. That demonstrate quite a lot of experience to the interviewers or recruiters, and I think that will be really useful. And if you are transitioning to an AI ML role, I would suggest to emphasize some of the transferable skills that you have. You might be really a good programmer, which is important to, let's say, train large models, which oftentimes becomes a infrastructure and data challenge rather than a math challenge. You might have leadership skills that will certainly transfer over to AI ML roles. Emphasize them, and also the willingness to learn, right? If you're transitioning, you might have to learn about new areas via online courses or self-study or some boot camp program. So express that. And I think above all, I think what is important is to have interest. That is interest in the field, interest in building features and products powered by AI is going to be of utmost importance.
Super. Pass that to Kyle.
Yeah, so I transitioned into an AI related role without having much prior experience. I don't have a degree per se in AI, but I was able within Google to get a certification in TensorFlow. And I even prior to that, outside of working hours, it's something that I was interested in for many years. But when the opportunity came up to take this role, I was able to show that I had the certificate, and I'm able to, at a 1,000-foot level, be somewhat familiar with concepts that are discussed by the teams, and that came up in the interview process. So I think there's a lot of excellent opportunities to do things on your own, like with Llama or other publicly available sort of AI platforms. The interesting piece, I would say, and something I think about a lot is artificial intelligence code. When they've looked at it, 80% of the code for ML pipelines is not actually the algorithm, the let's say the learning algorithm. It's all of the infrastructure in terms of pre and post processing that's involved. So I would say skill sets that are in demand are folks that are really good with handling large data and also thinking about gaps that exist in data. Because now, especially with ChatGPT and the proliferation of LLMs, it's really important to not only just kind of know how to implement the algorithms, but to identify the gaps that exist and identify opportunities that haven't been tapped yet. And that's really where you can continue to add value as the field continues to grow.
Super. So a quick reference, just for me, as I want to provide you all some the tip part. So let me look again. Who here loses a name in about 30 seconds sometime? Am I the only one?
I can do it 20.
Okay, all right. There's a great newsletter that comes out, Alpha Signal. Anybody here read that or get that one? Yeah, okay. If you don't, you get a whole lot of industry. I mean, so for instance, you'll get the headlines, they'll tell you, hey, this is the 3-minute read. They've also got the academic papers associated with it if you're interested in that kind of stuff, but they're really keeping the pulse on the industry in general. So there's also, they'll say, hey, Claude has just done this. So if you're really interested in that part, then it has the links. And if you're the kind of person that goes out and does that, I think that also is an indication to folks that, oh, you did a project with this, or you even just on your own. Deeplearning.ai, which is Andrew Ng's newsletter that comes out. Anybody get from deeplearning.ai? Yeah, Andrew's a fantastic educator. I guess I'll get in trouble a little bit there from a competitor, but they often have short courses that they'll work. So there was one with vector databases, which are the back end for LLMs and generative AI, which are still startups, by the way. The biggest one is Pinecone. I think they did $100 million in B funding a year ago in spring. So the CTO of Pinecone did hey, this is how we do RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and it's a 45 or 60-minute course, but you'll go through the coding bits and you'll actually make that happen. So the more that you dedicate yourself deeply to sort of little pieces like that, the more you'll position yourself more strongly when you go into the interview process, because you have those bits to speak about. All right, let's jump into the next one. Let me find my next one. This is the hardest part about ML and AI. It's Zoom and Teams and email. All right, so we talked about mentorship a little bit. And the next question is about mentorship. I'd like to cut to the part about it, which is, how do you find a good mentor? Sure. So we can start with you. Yes, sir.
I think it starts with understanding where you are and where you want to be in your career, and then trying to find people who really emulate the best aspects of how you're trying to grow. The other piece is trying to find an opportunity to give a little in the relationship as well. If there's something that you can provide to the mentor in terms of either a capability or connecting them to others or giving them a different perspective, maybe. I think that's important so that it's not just sort of a one-sided relationship. But then most of all, it's finding somebody that you can connect with, that you resonate with on a personal, professional, and ethical level, and then somebody that you feel can give you the best advice. Yeah. Should have the thread back.
Kind of adding to what Kyle mentioned, you should understand what are your gaps, what are the things that you want to work on, right? Whether it's the technical, soft, or whatever, right? And that's where your manager can help, right? And then find a rock star mentor that is strong in those specific areas. And something you might actually utilize more than one mentor, right? But anyway, find out what are those, focus on 2 to 3 areas that you want to be great at, or that you want to master specific skills, and find folks that are rock stars in it. Your manager can help you find a mentor, or you can reach out within a network. You can shop around, right? So you can have intro meetings where you see, if there's that connection, right, and so on. Make sure, ideally, the mentor is somebody that's very seasoned in a role that you're looking to get to, right? So let's say if you're looking for to get promoted vertically, ideally a mentor should be seasoned in that particular role or higher, right? And ideally a mentor that had a similar experience, similar path as the one that you're looking to take, right? So for instance, if you're looking to convert from IC to manager, ideally you want to find a seasoned manager that has been an IC, that has been converted to a manager at the same company, that knows the process inside out and so on, right? To kind of also add what Kyle mentioned, how successful your mentorship relationship is going to be, it's the right attitude is to take it upon you, right? So how successful and what you get out of mentor, it depends on you. So you should be the one driving agenda. You should be the one preparing for each of the meetings. Hey, this is what I want you to help me. So help your mentor help you, right? What I've seen in most cases, when I've seen mentorship kind of fall apart or just kind of fall off the calendar, is folks, they're busy. I mean, sure, everybody has busy days, right? It's hard to kind of plan for a mentorship meeting, right? And then you come show up to a mentor. A mentor could be great, right? Could be distinguished engineer, could be a principal, could be VP or whatever, right? And then you just kind of end up talking, small talk, right? And kind of wasting time. So once the mentors find, get the feeling, okay, well, maybe this is not the best use of time for both of us, that's kind of when things go south, right? So take ownership of figuring out what is it specifically that you want help in. Once you get to the point where you felt that you learn most from that particular person, find a new mentor, right? You don't necessarily need to cut off the old one, decrease the frequency. So maybe going from once a month, go once a quarter. It's good to keep the relationship and still kind of keep the insights from that person and so on. The last thing to add is ideally find a mentor outside of your team. It helps with a number of things. One of them might be touchy topics that you want to discuss, right, that you might not want to share with your team members. The other one is those folks outside your team or outside your organization, they're more likely to educate you on some of the insights that not only you learn, but also your team learns as well. Something that you bring in, inside of your team, and that itself, makes you a stronger contributor and a stronger force multiplier.
Am I going to answer this again? Cool. All right. So I think, I think I'm personally been very lucky of having good mentors in my workplace. I particularly think my manager at Meta has helped me grow a lot. And I think it resonates with many of the things my previous speakers mentioned, that he has been an IC before and then transitioned to a management role. And some of the things I would say what I really value about him or an effective mentor is that they bring this new perspective about myself. I believe that the wisdom comes from within. That is, when you grow, you really know how you will grow. And that's you can be the only person who can help you. However, the mentor can just give you a perspective, a new perspective that you might not have thought about. So as such, starting with my manager or other teams, I think is a great place. When I was in Amazon, there was an opportunity, there were some programs to connect with many like principal or higher level people, and I used that to, gain this perspective. And finally, of course, LinkedIn, you can find like an effective mentor-mentee relationship via LinkedIn, and that will help you progress your career, like navigating risks in different cases, thinking about taking on new career roles, and many times the mentor could challenge you in some of the decisions you are taking. May make you uncomfortable, but I would say that's the kind of mentor I really value, who challenges me and makes me think about the decisions I made and I thought were really intuitive. I just wanted to say one more thing about the previous discussion, actually, about I like getting newsletters or entering scores. I think is a great place to learn about new topics, and I do that on a regular basis. But I'd also caution a little bit these days about learning from online material, in particularly AI ML. There are many articles, and I can give you examples right now. Many of them are flawed to a certain extent, meaning people without having enough depth commenting and writing. So if you read that and discuss that in an interview, you might fall into a trap. So before you do that, I would suggest read up a little bit, check. You can do that easily again using papers and code and try it yourself. But yeah, do your due diligence. That's all.
Super. All right, I'm going to ask one more for the panel, because then I want to get to the AMA. So we have maximum time to do that and get everybody's questions. All right, so the last one for this, how has your field evolved over the past few years, and what changes do you anticipate in the next 5? Whoever wants to go first.
I guess I'll start just kind of keeping it general, not a specific role. What I've seen, at least at Amazon, what I see the trend of successful folks, whether it's ICs or managers, I've seen a trend where they are having a stronger business acumen, so meaning it's no longer just, hey, here's the stuff, here's the requirements, go ahead and do it, but having the ability to drive conversations with other stakeholders, whether they're product managers, TPMs, scientists, or whatever, right? And I've seen a trend where there's obviously, I mean, the technical bar is still there. Folks still need to be able to design, implement, test, and so on, right? But there is increasing value in doing some of these other things, right, independently, and being able to drive projects, drive stakeholder conversations independently, right? And develop, as part of that, developing soft skills to be able to do so. And I've seen that being portrayed in the promo criteria, not just promo criteria, promotion criteria, but also hiring as well, right? Where, say, 10 years ago in an interview, there might have been less weight added to how you are working with stakeholders, how you, engaging on the non-tech aspect of it. Now there's more weight added to that. And I assume, especially with the AI and especially with coding, testing some of the frameworks, making it easier, that there's going to be a larger time of even ICs expected to be able to drive those things, meaning you're not going to need a TPM or engineering manager kind of babysit you to push your project around. You're going to need to be able to take ownership and drive some of those things. So I anticipate that there's going to be this kind of continued trend of being able to drive those conversations, having those soft skills. But next.
I can go whichever way.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because as a technical program manager, I would say the trends are kind of shifting to be more on the technical side. And so at Google and other places, I think they term technical program managers as sort of force multipliers for a team, because you're able to collaborate and work with all the stakeholders that are necessary in order to really land an impactful program. And I think what has made me successful and others successful in the role has really been to not only there is some element of, let's say, scheduling and sort of task breakdown and delegation that happens, but I think the ability to, from a technical standpoint, anticipate issues, or to be able to prototype things yourself or with a smaller team and to iterate rapidly, and that can help set the direction for a much wider investment. I think that's where TPMs especially can have a lot more, can have more success. And now with LLMs and other things being available both within, I'm sure every large company has an internal sort of LLM trained on their own code base. So I'm able to, in a weekend, prototype and stand up like an API that would have taken me probably months to muddle through the code base to do. But now with LLMs and other things, you have a force multiplier for yourself, and that really helps you kind of add value quicker to your teams. And so I would say that's going to continue to be an area for TPMs to strengthen in the years to come.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear the operations or the way we work. How has that evolved? So maybe I can answer this from a technical point of view. So to the extent I have been around for the ML literature, you all probably know also that it has changed so much, and it is changing more faster than ever before. Back in those just a few years back, we used to use some sort of XGBoost and whatnot, but today majority of the models have moved on to neural networks and large models, if you will. And I do think that will continue to be the trend. I do think, in the next few years, these language models or AI systems will be more strongly integrated in our daily lives, like some of the things mentioned. There are these email, let's say, clients that power LLMs, and maybe you will get agents to reply to our emails automatically. I think that is coming. Superhuman, I guess, is an application like that. But also I think that it's on us to integrate that in our day-to-day work as much as we can to our benefit. So maybe I'll get a little more specific. That is, I work in the recommendation and ranking literature, which traditionally used to be collaborative filtering and all. And then all of that in the last few years have moved on to these cross networks, which try to understand cross. Like, let's say you buy a computer from Amazon, and the next thing you're going to buy is a mouse. That's very obvious. But now, then the models have become smart enough to understand that if somebody is maybe shopping at night, maybe they're looking for fashion items versus maybe in the daytime they're looking for something else. So this sort of cross was the hot topic in this literature. But next, obviously, the entire industry in my field is trying to figure out how to use transformers for ranking or recommendation system. It hasn't been solved yet, but I think soon enough that will happen. I see many teams in Meta, trying to figure it out. Not just in Meta, many other companies, and we're all trying that in many different ways. So I think that's going to be sort of the focus in the next few years. That how can you use the power of this, openly available language models in all parts of your work.
Super. Thank you. All right, so that's the end of the panel discussion. I think I found it really, really helpful. So thank you if you would join me in thanking these guys.